Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, an entitled Karen broke into my beach property to throw a party. When I busted her in the act, she claimed she is the new owner of my house. She tried to get me arrested and claimed I am trespassing. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. I just experienced the weirdest thing in my entire life and I felt like it fits perfectly here. So a little bit of info to start you off is that I have a beach home. I also have what some people refer to as a baby face, where despite being an adult, I get mistaken for a teenager, college-aged young adult all the time. Being only 5 feet tall does not help with that at all. I worked hard to get what I have and my home is something that I am extremely proud of. I am in love with the ocean and having a property basically right on the beach is like I am living the dream. I also work long hours to accommodate that and don't get to enjoy my home as often as I like. Now, this day in question was not a day I was working though, and in fact just a normal day where I went out to run some errands and have lunch with my mom. I wanted to just go home and relax, maybe even go outside and sit on the beach to unwind for a while. One last thing is that it's not like a packed block with no space between houses, so the streets tend to not have a ton of cars. Either way, I drove up to my house to find most of the block filled with parked cars and even my own driveway having cars in it that I don't know. I was mad about that, but also curious when I heard music coming from what to me sounded like my house. I finally found a spot for my car and walked towards my house thinking I must have made a mistake. Maybe my neighbor was having a big thing and people parked in my driveway thinking it was his. When I got to my house though, I knew that I was wrong when I saw the lights on and saw through the windows people inside of my house. Looking back, the one thing I would have changed was calling the police right away and staying away until then. I did not think of that though and instead went right through my front door to try and figure out what the hell was going on. It was not a huge party by any means, maybe like 20 people, but it was shocking. I walked up to the first person I saw and did not even hide how upset I was. Me? What are you all doing in my house? Random guy, your house? Karen invited us and this is her house. Me, which one of these people is Karen? I need to have a talk with her. I was pointed to a woman that was in the kitchen drinking my wine and talking with some other women. I could not believe that this woman had a party at somebody else's house and did not even know what to think. I was just seeing red and stormed right up to her. Me? Who the hell do you think you are? Get out of my house right now and take your little party with you. Otherwise, I'm gonna call the cops. Karen, I'm the new owner of this property. I'm having a party and I didn't invite whoever you are. Get out now. Me, you don't own this house because I would have remembered selling it. You broke into my home and threw a party and drank my wine. This party ends now. The rest of the guests came over to see the yelling and some started asking Karen what I was talking about. Meanwhile, she was telling me that if I called the cops, she would have me arrested for having alcohol since I was clearly underage. I called them right in front of her and that was when she started to look a little bit nervous. Still, she was adamant that she now owned the property and then said the one thing that made me realize why she thought she would get away with it. Karen, besides, I drove all week and I didn't see any signs of this house having an owner. And I guess Ripe stars in Karen's brain, if a house is abandoned or nobody's living there for a certain amount of time, you can just come in and take it over. From that, I think she assumed the house was unoccupied and she could get away with doing anything she wanted. Some people here only use their beach homes for vacation and the rest of the time rent them out or keep them empty. The police arrived and some people realized that it might be the best time to leave. A few stayed though and kept asking Karen questions like how did I get into the house and what was going on. She was quickly running out of answers, which was bad because the police had plenty. Officer, I don't want to get into a fight between you two. I want both of you to show me your license. Where I live, they put your address right on your driver's license. So we both gave it to him and he pointed out that mine had this address while Karen's had some other. Karen, that is because I just moved in there. This was my housewarming party and she must have wanted to sneak in. I bet her parents sold the place and she was angry about it. She even claimed that the wine was hers, so she could be arrested for underage drinking, right? Officer, ma'am, according to this, she is 28 years old. She can buy and drink alcohol. Now, I have somebody doing a background check on the house and recent sales, so you two just sit tight. Karen was now looking nervous and started saying that she did not really want me arrested for ruining her party. In fact, apparently the party was just ending and she had other important things to do. Like asking for someone's manager, getting someone fired, etc. He was not letting her leave though, and of course he got the information that it was my house and it had not been put up for sale. Also, he confirmed my identity because she was still complaining that there was no way I was 28. Another officer found a broken window, which is, I guess, how she ended up getting into the house. She broke one on the other side from her party in the back where it wouldn't be too obvious to anybody. Her friends immediately turned against her and told her that they could not believe that she lied about buying a vacation house on the beach. Since they did not know about all of this, they were allowed to leave, but Karen was not getting off the hook. After breaking my window, sneaking into my house, throwing a party, drinking my wine and lying about the entire thing, I was not gonna just let her walk away. I pressed charges and she was arrested and taken by the police on the spot. They told me she probably would not be kept long since she was not dangerous, but if she came back to my house to call them right away. She did not, and I did not see her until we had to go to court to discuss what should happen to her for the crimes she committed against me. I guess she had settled on a story with her lawyer that she was in the process of buying my house and the deal just was not on paper yet. That my parents sold the house and I wanted to sneak in and steal their alcohol while I still had the chance since I was underage. I don't know why her lawyer let her go with that story, because it was so full of holes it might have as well been a sponge. My lawyer tore it apart in minutes and she was forced to pay me. She had to pay for the broken window, the stolen alcohol, a fine for trespassing, and I got a restraining order against her. I don't know what happened with her lying to the police and if that was a separate case or if they just did not do anything about it. So there you have it, the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. I hope that after this my life can go back to being uneventful and full of me just relaxing on the beach and enjoying my house. I really doubt after this Karen has any friends left and now does not have any money to save up and buy a beach house for her very own. Too bad. So sad. And yeah, ripe stars, I gotta say, these entitled people get even crazier and crazier ideas as time goes on. Honestly, I would not even have the audacity to step foot on someone's property, but then to break into someone's home and then drink their alcohol and claim that you're the new owner, that is absolutely next level. Either way, let's continue to the next story. The next one is titled Parking Spot Revenge Done Right. This incident happened in the summer of 2018. I took a small part, but the real star was my landlord. A small background, it's common in my country to have apartment buildings next to houses, yard and all. I live in one such building. It has 10 apartments. 2 on each of the first 4 floors and 1 in the ground floor and 1 in the top floor. The top floor is used by the landlord when he and his family come for vacations because he lives abroad. The rest are rentals and we also have a small backyard with a side entrance which is important for later. Next to the building is an empty lot also belonging to the landlord. We use it as a private parking space with signs visibly saying it is private. It takes 10 cars, 1 per apartment, and has the side entrance. Also, I was the longest tenant, so I was the superintendent. My job was to be the liaison between the tenants and the landlord and communicate any problems and concerns to him. The problems really started when the house across the street from us was sold. A lovely old lady used to live there, but when she passed away, the house fell in disarray, especially the large yard. The new owners were Ken and Karen, fake names, but lived up to the meme. They immediately began major renovations, which was acceptable, but they also started to park their cars in our 2 empty spots, 1 for the landlord and 1 for the lady in the ground floor that did not even own a car. At first we would tell them that they were reserved spots and they would move their cars, but when they noticed the spots remained empty, they parked there permanently. I had notified the landlord and he told me to take pictures, log every incident and always notify the police. We started doing that every day. Ken is a hotshot local businessman and every time we called the cops he would cause a scene about us being jerks. He always got a fine, but he very blatantly proclaimed he will not pay. The worst part came about a month before the landlord's annual visit. They stopped using one of their cars and left it permanently in front of the side entrance, blocking it. That was a huge issue. You see, the lady living in the ground floor is a renal dialysis patient and 3 times a week goes for a session in the local hospital. The ambulance brings her back and usually parks next to the side entrance, because she is exhausted after a session. With Karen's car parked there, that was not doable anymore. They don't move it even when the police is called. I notify the landlord and try to hold our own hothead from doing anything foolish. The calmer thing he proposed was slashing their tires. Finally, our landlord arrives. I hand him the photos and the logs and he calls Ken over. Tony, the landlord, calmly explains that they are not allowed to park in our space and to move the cars. Ken's response was, "Who the hell do you think you are? I can park anywhere I want." Now, Ken thinks himself as a big fish in our small town, but Tony is a big fish in a major foreign city. And he is very creative when somebody pisses him off. He tells us to leave the spot next to the side entrance open for the weekend and he will take care of things. We do that and Ken parks his car next to his wife's. Sunday evening, a tow truck arrives and unloads an old Citroen DS, also known as the Frog, blocking both of their cars. Monday morning, I wake up by the buzzer and when I go downstairs, Ken and Karen are there. They are both livid. They cannot move either car and Tony joins me, all smiles. Ken sees him and blows a gasket. He starts shouting and cursing. Tony, still smiling, replies, "I don't see a problem here. My car is legally parked." "What are you gonna do about it?" Ken angrily gets into his car and reverses on the DS, crushing them both. Tony's smile became one of a shark. He immediately called the police and pressed charges against Ken. The aftermath, Tony had legally bought the DS from his cousin that owns a car repair and restoration shop. The car was a restoration project and was insured. The court found Ken liable for the damage done. They also found out he was true to his word and had not paid any of the tickets. The fines for the tickets alone were almost 2,000 euros. He also leased both his cars and they dropped him as a client immediately for purposefully causing an accident and damaging the leased car. They sued him for damages. Ken got another car but learned his lesson and has not parked in our spots ever since. The next one is titled, "Karen Wants It for Free." So I work at a local coffee shop in a pretty busy area. Usually things are pretty chill, but this past weekend we had a festival that was literally right outside of our store and it got a little hectic. It was also decently hot outside, about 105 to 115 Fahrenheit with the humidity, so needless to say, a lot of people were getting cold drinks over hot drinks. I do want to mention as well that we were selling a lot of waters too, and by selling I pretty much mean giving out, since any size water is free. Now, due to the fact that everyone wanted ice and cold drinks, our ice machine was not able to keep up, so we got to the point where we were not able to put ice in the water and everything was getting light ice. Most people understood this and accepted the waters anyway, since it was still cold water they were getting, but then in walks a Karen. She had ordered a few ice waters and upon seeing that she didn't get ice in her waters, she slammed down her fist on the counter and started screaming at my coworker that she needed ice in her effing water now. My co-workers proceeded to explain to her the situation and how we were not able to put ice in the water and apologized. She then decided that was not gonna work and started screaming for a manager, to which I stepped in. I basically said the same thing since what my coworker had said was correct. She then started screaming for a refund. Me, "You want a refund for your entire order?" Choosing beggar Karen, "Well yes, this is effing ridiculous." Me, prints out receipt that says waters are free and hands it to her, aka I rung up 3 waters, all of which say $0 and total comes to 0, and printed out the receipt for it. At that point she was irate because I was not gonna compensate her for waters that she didn't pay for and stormed out all without her water. The next one is titled, "Everything Free and Worse." Many years ago, decades even, I made fine furniture for a living in my own shop. I specialized in historical reproductions. My work was good enough to even end up in several museums. As reproduction pieces only, understandably originals can be quite rare. My work was also featured in several movies. On one memorable occasion, I even discovered a piece I had made for sale in an antique shop. Somebody had taken care to age it and it was being offered as an original. The staff were less than impressed when I pointed out it was a modern reproduction and showed them my maker's brand hidden on the underside. I was asked to leave and never come back. Oh well, I am quite flattered though. So now that you understand the type of work I produced, you should also understand some of the types of customers is attracted. After being burned a couple of times, I had a sale contract written up by my solicitor. In essence, it was an agreement for the customer to sign off on the agreed design drawings and pay 50% upfront, non-refundable, once work commences, to cover costs and the remaining 50% upon completion but before delivery. One of the earliest CBs, aka choosing beggar Karens, was an individual who proudly claimed he never paid full price for anything. He ordered a rather nice table made, signed the contract and paid the required 50%. However, upon completion he informed me that he had decided the total price was too much and he would only be paying the original deposit. Now, I reminded him that he had signed a contract and as a result the table would remain in my possession until fully paid for. He then tried to get me to deliver it and he would have a check waiting. Yeah, right, not falling for that one. After a 3-month standoff, he finally paid the remainder when I told him I was now putting the table up for sale elsewhere to recover costs. Another common choosing beggar was the "my father/brother and uncle can make that for half the cost." I would just reply, okay, so why aren't they? One person even went so far as to have her father come into my workshop to copy the template I use, and he was firmly told that that was not happening. Similar to the above is the "I can go down to Walmart and buy that for half the price." Well, no, you can't actually. The only place these designs exist in the world is my shop, but have fun, go looking. Next was the type of CB who could never be satisfied. One Karen in particular comes to my mind. She would hunt for anything that she considered a defect, as she put it, and demand a price reduction or else something extra free. The final straw came when I caught her pulling her car key across a polished tabletop to produce a scratch for which she then predictably demanded a discount. She was quite upset that I caught her red-handed and was even more upset when she was kicked out and banned from the premises. Lastly, there were the negotiators who always wanted a better price or to jump the waiting list or perhaps some free extras added to their work. I would direct them to the sign on the wall, which simply said, "Time, quality, cost. You may choose only 2. Most of them eventually worked it out. I would like to say that these were not common, but on average I would encounter at least one choosing beggar each week. Unfortunately, my countrymen were the worst for this. Short arms and deep pockets, as the saying goes. I love dealing with the Americans though. Even after shipping, they still thought my prices were cheap. Likewise, the Europeans very much appreciated quality work, although shipping to Europe was a pain. Eventually though, I moved to the tropics where the humidity is no good for fine woodwork, and so I closed my doors. While I miss the woodwork, I will never miss the choosing beggars. The next one is titled, "Jack has owned his winery for a number of years." He loves wine and knows what makes a good wine. He's a regular wine drinker, even if not from his own winery. He will spend a fair bit of money buying a good wine, and Jack has this one friend Richard who would often invite him over for dinner. He would bring a bottle of wine every time, and being who he is, it was always a good bottle, often costing a pretty penny. Well, Richard had a habit of taking that bottle out the back and then serving a different bottle during dinner. He would pour everyone a glass of whatever household brand was on sale at the supermarket that week and save the expensive bottle for a special occasion at another time, understandably, but this really annoyed Jack. After a few times, he decided he was not gonna stand by and let this happen any longer. The next time Richard extended the oh-so-generous invitation of a cooked dinner, Jack went to the cheapest, nastiest back alley store he could possibly find. He asked the clerk to get the worst bottle of wine he could muster. The clerk said that they had this one bottle for $3.50. $8 is a standard cheap bottle, but he advised against it because it was so old and sour it would not even be good for cooking. As you can guess from the price tag, this was not a wine which aged well. Jack bought that bottle of wine, dunked it in a pile of dust to make it look like a high-quality wine, which had been saved on a rack and collected dust over the years. And yeah, Richard's dinner never tasted so good, with a taste of very petty revenge on the side. Well, a couple of weeks later, Richard called up Jack in a fury. He ranted into the phone and cussed him out, saying he was dishonest and a terrible friend, giving him wine so sour it was almost rotten. Apparently, when he had finally deemed someone worthy enough of a decent bottle of wine, it was actually some really important person who he needed to impress, and that wine did not make quite the statement he hoped it would. Jack got a very satisfying chuckle. Edit number 1, because there seem to be a lot of people assuming that their cultural norms are standard everywhere, this was Jack's contribution to the dinner. It is standard in New Zealand for people to bring something. It was clear to all parties that this was to be shared at the dinner. Richard himself was a cheeky prick trying to pocket all the expensive wines for himself. It was not a gift. And yeah, ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video, and if you want to support my channel, I would very much appreciate it if you could like the video and maybe even write a comment. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.